I'm Jennifer Sanasi. You're watching News 24 Live. Food consultant Hillian Mayer is joining me in studio, and we're going to be talking about the salt in your diet for National Salt Awareness Week. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
So salt is the big topic this week, and we're just going to put it out there. It is not good for you, and you mustn't salt all of your meals.
Maybe an important thing about that is that we need salt, but what we get naturally in our food is more than enough. So it's those added amounts of salt and that habit of sitting down and going shake, 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 and all the processed foods. That's where the problem comes into our diet, where we need to be aware of it.
Jeez. Now, what are some of the common misconceptions that you often hear people saying about salt?
People often say, well, I don't have high blood pressure, so I don't need to worry about it. I can eat as much as I want. And it's not about doing something when you do have the condition. It's about precaution and being aware of the fact that salt is not only related to high blood pressure, there's all sorts of other health issues around that, like inflammation. People that suffer from constant joint inflammation, that sort of thing, or indigestion, often find that if they reduce the amount of salt in their diet, that it actually makes a huge difference. And you feel so much better if you don't have all of those processed and high salty ingredients in your diet.
It's funny, I've spoken to a lot of chefs in this studio, and a lot of them say salt is their favorite ingredient.
I'm not surprised. It is a fantastic ingredient, and we're not saying with the whole philosophy around reducing your salt that no salt is the way to go. But if you cook as natural and as fresh as possible, which I assume most chefs do, then salt is a little bit of addition to your food, not the main thing. And I think that's something that people sometimes almost forget when they start looking at labels and they start looking at the processed foods that they eat and they realize how much salt is in there. Then they actually get a fright and think, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I was consuming so much salt. And unfortunately, salt, like sugar, is a taste that you acquire. And the more salt you eat, the more salt you want to eat, because that level of saltiness, you almost don't get a point of satisfaction. And that's why people tend to eat more and more and more salt, unknowingly sometimes.
It's like an addiction.
It can be. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Now, talk me through, we have a wonderful guide here that's in Cooking from the Heart, too.
Yes.
That you've unpacked for us. You were showing me a little bit before we started the interview, and I thought it was very interesting to see the salt content in some of the takeaways and quick snacks that we eat throughout the day.
Yeah, we tried to make it as practical as possible for people. The guide is that you shouldn't have more than a teaspoon of salt in your meals throughout the day.
One teaspoon?
A teaspoon.
It seems small.
It's not a lot. And if you think how much you shake out onto a plate, if you shake that same amount onto your hand 3 times a day, plus all the ingredients that you eat, you get to 5 grams quite quickly.
Right.
But what we tried to do here was to say, compare the salt content of, for instance, a handful of unsalted nuts versus a handful of salted nuts. And it's one ingredient that has got quite a difference. And if you have that once a week, that's fine. But if you tend to have a very salty breakfast maybe, and then a takeaway for lunch, and then you have that salted nuts and peanuts, or a pizza for supper, then you start adding up, and that's where the problem lies. So we try and make it as easy as possible for people to compare. If I make soup and I use a stock cube versus liquid that I add and season with ginger and lemon and maybe a bit of garlic, then I get the same flavor, but I don't have all the salt. Or if I add a little bit of lemon juice to my food, then I have the flavor, but it wasn't given with salt. So there are wonderful ways that one can make a change and make a difference without thinking, oh, I'm putting myself on a plate of bland food or a diet that is just boring and tasteless. It's not the case. There are many other ways that you can add flavor to your food then.